So, hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. Welcome to my very thoughtful world. Tonight, my guest is Jameisha Rogers, who I'm super excited to talk to because not only is she a phenomenal businesswoman, but she's a friend. So, Jameisha, please tell everyone about you.
Thank you so much to Kanisha for having me here at Very Thoughtful Life. Like, I'm just so excited to be here on the podcast because I know we're going to have a great conversation. And
Yeah.
for those of you that are tuning into Very Thoughtful Life, my name is Jameisha Rogers. I'm the CEO and founder of the Nephrology Nurse Leadership Network, where I do clinical and legal nurse consulting for kidney care facilities and as well as law firms. So I'm just really excited to be here with Kanisha because she's my girl and she helps keep me balanced and with her, amazing advice and everything, her philosophy. So I'm just really excited.
Thank you. So, Jameisha, how did you start that business? Because I know that you're a nurse. I know you have a nursing background. What made you go into neurology? You said neuropathy. What did you say? Your
Nephrology.
no.
It's a tongue twister.
It
It
is.
is neurology, nephrology, neurology. Okay. So it's nephrology. So it's a study of the kidneys.
Okay.
And I've been a kidney nurse for this is my 15th year. So I'm super excited about that. I've always been excited about healthcare. Both my grandmothers were nurses.
Mhm.
And I've always had a love for other people and helping them to feel better, even as a small child. So nursing became very natural. And kidney care and long term care were the areas that I wanted to go into since I was about 13 years old. I knew that those were the specialties that I wanted to be in. So it's just funny how that's how life has worked. And those are the areas that I work in. And becoming an entrepreneur was not something that I envisioned myself doing. I knew that I wanted to do something different, but the way in which I got to this point has been pretty phenomenal, and it's been a really good roller coaster and a lot of good changes that have helped me along the way. So I used to be a staff nurse and a charge nurse for a while, and did some mid level management, and I just got burned out. I loved the people that I was caring for,
Mhm.
but I felt stifled that I could not care for them the way that I wanted to. I felt that I was limited in what I could do as a nurse. So that's kind of how I started out on this journey.
Okay. So, did you know, or were you thinking prior to starting your business that you could take all of this amazing information that you knew about being a nurse and make it your own business?
Kanisha, to be quite honest, when I left the management job, I thought travel nursing was the answer to all of my problems. I knew that I needed to do something different, but I wasn't sure what that looked like.
Mhm.
So, to be fair and answer your question, I didn't know that I could do all the things that I'm doing now until I met up with a group of women that were in their own way, in their own lanes, using their expertise in different ways. And
Mhm.
it opened my eyes to the possibilities that I had.
I love that you shared that because, like, one of the things, one of my goals is certainly to bring women together, which is why I host retreats and have the different things that I have. But talk about how important that is to be around like minded women and how that has really shift things for you.
I think that's a very good question, and one that if you take me back before I started my business, I probably would have said it didn't matter
Mhm.
because my temperament is I love people, but I also like my solitude. I can do well in either space. But the benefit of those valuable connections that you create when you are trying to do something different, I can honestly say that had it not been for those connections, some of the ideas and the way that have approached my business might not have even come about because the like-mindedness doesn't come from us thinking the same. It
Right.
comes from people actually being different but being phenomenal in their own space, and the inspiration coming from you being in that space. So I'm constantly motivated by the women such as you, Kanisha. I'm constantly around women that are transparent, they have integrity. You are walking in your purpose, you're doing things that bring fulfillment and happiness to you, but you're doing it with a selfless attitude, all of which that resonates with me naturally. So that helps me to build upon myself personally, and then it shows up in my business. So the value of the connection cannot be underestimated.
Wow, that's so good, Jameisha. And I want to talk to, because the reason I really started doing this podcast, because I've done it before, and for a long time it was just me sharing, my very thoughtful way of thinking. But one day I just felt like God was like, you need to start inviting other women onto the platform. And I really wanted to highlight women who are doing their, entrepreneurship, because I meet so many. When I tell you, Jameisha, I meet women who have doctorate degrees. And they talk. I have this one lady that I know, and it broke my heart when she talked about getting a job at Costco, because she just don't have that belief in herself or in her abilities. So I started this to say, listen, if I can do it, Jameisha can do it. Like everyone else I've ever had on the podcast, I'm doing it to encourage women to just get started. It doesn't have to start pretty. It doesn't have to be perfect. And it's okay if you don't make six figures your first year or as soon as you start, but just get started. And that thing you said about being in the room with other women, how do women come into those rooms when she feels like, well, they have so much more than I do, or they're so much further along than I am? How do I show up and either one, not compare myself or not make myself small in the room?
Well, one thing about it is you got to show up authentically. You cannot concern yourself with what someone else has, someone else's path. And I can, so for me, when I look around, I know that there are people that have more than me physically, financially. They may have access to more things, but that's not the purpose of the relationship. And so, because money is not the focus ultimately of being in that space, I mean, we want to make money through our businesses, but we're not there to cutthroat each other to get to that point. And so, if you just show up authentically as yourself, it kind of allows you not to focus on that, and you take that energy and put it into what you need so that you can progress along your path, so that you can obtain the things that you want to obtain. When I am setting a goal, of course, I want to make a profit off of it. We live in a world, we need money as a conduit, as our coach says, Dr. V. Money is a conduit. You need it. Let's be real. But it's not the primary focus for everything, because as people and professionals, we can do a number of things to make money. Especially as a nurse, I could do a number of things to make money. I was doing that before I had my business, but now I'm doing it smarter. I'm doing it strategically. And the value of those connections allows me to think outside the box, stretch myself so that I am growing in a way that allows me to walk in that space and do these things. And then the money comes a little bit easier. It's not as intense of a thought. That's my advice to anybody. Fear is natural, but don't allow it to cripple you into a space where you are stagnant and don't want to move because you are blinded by what someone else's path is giving to them. You don't know all the things that person has went through to reap those benefits and reap those blessings. So just focus on your path and learn from that individual and see what you can apply in your own journey along the way. That's the best advice I can give for those that may be anxious about it.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And one of the things I've learned since becoming an entrepreneur, and when you in those circles and listening to mentors, and I met a young lady one time and she says, "Oh, I thought a mentor had to be someone you know." And I had to explain to her, no, mentors are like, for years, Oprah was a mentor to me, because I would just follow everything that she was on, listen to her conversations. But listening to business mentors, they talk a lot about, it's not about your doing, it's about your being. Who have you become when you look back on Jameisha, who was working as a nurse and working for someone else, to now Jameisha, the business owner, what do you see differently? Like, how have you become?
I think I'm just not afraid to show up.
Mm,
See, I used to be afraid to show up. I used to be told things like, girl, you too much.
mm,
Or I remember one time I was told, you show too much emotion.
mm.
And when you are, and this was from a person that was mentoring me, that I looked up to professionally, and I consider that person a friend.
Yeah.
But my upbringing was, you show up authentic in the world. Don't be afraid to be who you are. And so that's how I show up in the room. I don't try to be something that I'm not. So when that person told me, you're doing too much or
Mm.
you're showing too much, it made me dim my light. And at the time, I didn't realize that I was dimming my light to make someone else comfortable. I don't do that anymore.
Yes, I love it. I love it. And I love that you talked about that, because I think a lot of times as women, we need to hear that just because of someone is a mentor and they mean well, if the cost is who you are, the cost is too great. Like, they don't get to shrink who you are. And I know for me, when I was in corporate America, it was the same thing, right? I was I wasn't often told that I was too much because I was emotional. I was often told I was too much because I would say, I worked in television, in a newsroom, and I would call them out on things. And they was just like, Kanisha, you can't, why? Why can't I bring to your attention that your entire producer pod are all white males? And every time I get a request where a white man kills someone, it's man killed. But when I get a request for a black man, it's murder. Like, why can't I call that out?
That was the same situation I was running into. Kanisha is very, it's very funny, ironic rather, that you're bringing that up, because I was just speaking on what was real.
Mm-hmm.
I was just saying the things that, and not disrespectfully, just being very open and honest, because in the world, we're taught to be honest. We're taught to have integrity. But the minute you do that, when people start to feel uncomfortable, they no longer want to hear it when it requires them to change. And so when I'm saying these particular things that needed to be done, or bringing things out to people's attention that were in authority to make a change, and you no longer want to hear it, okay, well, this is a space that I no longer belong in.
Yeah.
Because if I'm in the business of caring for people, that starts with being honest.
Mm-hmm.
That starts in, you can't heal in an environment that's negative, and an environment that's being restrictive, and it's not, and it's cutting off the positivity. You can't heal anybody in that.
Yeah.
And so I refuse to be shrunk to that capacity. So I knew then that it was time for me to leave that space. And I just encourage anybody, don't allow fear to make you stay in spaces that drain you. It's
Mm.
just, you don't know the damage that is doing until the damage is far done. It took me like 2 years to heal and build and regroup and grow from that being stagnant and shrinking.
Yeah.
It can really break you down. So be very careful with that.
Yeah. I think it's what you said is so powerful, because as you were saying that about being careful not to be in rooms where it's negativity and you can't heal. Not only is that true for your physical, that's so true for your mental. It's true for your emotional. Like, you have to be in a space where you get to be authentically you in order to emotionally heal, so that you can effectively communicate and then stand boldly in who you are, to be in those spaces fully you. And I like to think, and it's been a lot of years since I've been in corporate, but I like to think that we're now in a society where being kind of you is more accepted. But maybe I'm naive, because I haven't have to be in the rooms with people like that. What would you say to that? Because I know you, even though you have your own business, I know you still move with the corporate because you work with lawyers and um, the contracts that you get?
I will say that in some spaces, it's true. Those things are encouraged, but there's still work that needs to be done from my standpoint, especially as an African American woman. There's still some things that could be done to improve that in that space, to make to make it better.
Yeah.
There's some things that could be done in a variety of ways. But we don't expect change overnight. Destruction sometimes can come overnight, but change is progressive,
Yeah.
and it takes time. And so we learn how to navigate and enlighten ourselves and others as we go. And that's just been something that I've been trying to own and do. But that's a part of those connections, because when you're connected with people in a space where you can thrive and grow, it gives you the power that you need and the confidence that you need to stand firm no matter what the situation is, and to be able to move in a way where you can have that confidence built up. So it really stems from you personally and then your connections.
That's good. That's really good. Jameisha, when I think about being, the fact that you went from corporate or in that field of being the employer to being the employee now, what mindset shift had to happen?
I had to clear my throat for that.
That's all right.
So it's a couple of changes that have to be done. When we are employees, we are typically trading time for money.
Mm.
We think about, I get this amount per this hour that I'm doing this work. And far too often, we know that hourly rate is not inclusive of the value that we're bringing.
Right.
And so part of the mindset was letting myself be comfortable with asking for what I know I deserve for the services and that I'm going to provide. That takes time for some of us. It took me time to feel that confidence. And now I look at entrepreneurship differently. Even when I am having a transaction with another business owner, the way that I think about quality and exchanges is different, because we've been trained to think a certain way when it comes to how we get paid.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one. And then just being comfortable, not being a yes person, putting in healthy boundaries was very necessary for me, because I used to be a people pleaser. I wanted to make everybody happy. As part of being a caregiver, you want everything to be perfect, everything to flow nice, and sometimes at our own expense.
Yes.
So I learned to ask for what I was worth and not be apologetic about it. And I also learned how to put in healthy boundaries so that things can be done in a way that have respect going both ways, because I want my clients to be happy as well.
Yeah. That's so good. And I love that you shared that, because that was a thing that I had to learn too in entrepreneurship. And I almost wish people taught it as a class. I'm working really hard to kind of shift my son's mindset, because he's his senior year in college. But I told him, I'm like, you have to go through, you don't get to jump the line. You got to walk through the process too. But understanding our value, and also that mindset shift of recognizing you don't have to necessarily work for that by the hour. Like, people can pay you for your hour, not by your hour. That for me was a big aha moment when I as my coaching program started to grow, because I used to be very much like have low by the hour type fees, and I heard someone say no, they are paying for the value. And like you said, and then a lot of people start their business and they say, well, I'm just starting, so I have to start at a kind of low. But they've been doing what they've been doing for 10, 15, 20 years. So you're not just starting. And they're not paying you for your year as a business owner. They're paying you for your 15 years of being a nurse or whatever your profession is. And I really wish more people understood that. What do you want, or what do you wish more women knew about who they are and starting businesses? Or like, if there was something you could tell, let's say Jameisha when she was in her 20s, what would you tell her?
Now I got married when I was 20 and I turned 21 the next day.
Wow.
So my younger self, I always had this idea that I could do anything. My father used to tell me, and my grandfather all the time, even my grandmother, you can do anything, you can be anything. Like that was something that I heard all my life. So I knew that whatever I set my mind to, that I would accomplish it. But I used to be very timid.
Mm,
And I used to allow things that other people said, felt, and thought when it was relayed to me. I used to allow that to impact my decision making.
mhm.
And that wasn't always to my benefit. Now, I'm not telling everybody to be selfish, because we have to have a balance and a priority. But even as caretakers, even whether we're wives, we're mothers, we're sisters and daughters and friends, whatever hat or hats that you wear, you cannot leave yourself out
Mm,
of the equation when you are trying to make sure that everything and everybody is okay. You have to ensure that you are on that priority list, because if you don't, you will find yourself so drained and so depleted that when you do get the idea, or you do get the notion that, hey, this is what I want to do, you won't have the energy for it.
yeah.
So don't be afraid to make adjustments in life that require you to put yourself first sometimes, or to put yourself in a space where you can do something that you really want to do. And just be careful who you're aligned with. You know, I'm very thankful that I have a very supportive husband. When I have an idea or a career opportunity or anything like that, you know, as a married woman, you know, it's always a conversation. Even my husband, he wants to do something, we talk about how that will impact us, and he's always encouraging me, you always try.
Oh,
He
that's
was like, you always want to try, because you don't ever want to live with a regret. Just
mm,
try, think it through. If you're comfortable, you pray on it. Let's pray on it, and then try it. If you don't like it, okay, but at least give it a shot. So I just want to tell everybody that, because that's what I would have told my 20-year-old self. And then maybe I wouldn't have stayed in some spaces longer than those individuals deserve for me to be connected with them. I probably would have known my value a little earlier.
okay. Yeah. That's beautiful that you have this such a supportive husband. And I know that there are women who maybe don't. And I've been blessed the same. Like there are times when I'm thinking, Dre, I just need to give up and get a job. And he's like, no. Because for him, he sees what I do as such a ministry,
Mhm.
that he's just like, I just can't imagine me having you leave this alone when I know God called you to it. I'm like,
Yeah,
okay.
that part,
Yeah.
that part, you know, because our husbands pray for us, and
Mhm.
they have visions for our families, and they have visions for themselves as the leaders in our families.
Yeah.
And I take my husband's his advice. I take that to heart, his opinion. I value that.
Yeah.
And you know, I want to walk in my purpose, because when he backs me up and God is backing me up, I don't have a right to give up.
That's so good.
I don't have a right, because at this point other people have invested.
Mhm.
God has saw fit to give me the abilities to do certain things.
Yeah.
He's given me this energy. He's given me insight. He's given me knowledge. He's given me a husband that is super supportive, super protective, great provider. Okay, you need to do what you need to do then. I can't, I'm not sitting in a space where an excuse is acceptable. And so therefore I don't even operate in that mode, because I look at it not just being about me, it's a bigger picture. Those that I want to serve, and those that invest and believe in me and want to see me do well.
That's so good. That's so good. And that's ultimately what having a business is. We don't use that language enough, I think. We are serving. We're serving from our gifts and our talents. And I want women to know, particularly Christian women, it's a good thing to serve from your gifts and talents and get paid for it. Right?
We
And
can get paid.
yeah,
It's okay to get paid.
yeah,
Look, it's an exchange.
that's all.
We have to pay for our food. We have to pay for our clothing, our housing, our
Yeah.
health insurance. That is the world in which we live.
Yes.
We're not extorting anyone. We're not taking anything forcibly. It
Right.
is okay to have a legitimate business
Hmm.
where you're providing value to a customer to save them time, energy, money, or some sort of resource that's going to help them, whether it's a business or an individual, and you are receiving compensation for that at an amount that you feel is adequate. And
Yes.
you do not have to apologize for that. We have to get out of the mindset that is something wrong with me if I want money to
Yeah.
do what I need to do, because we need that conduit, as we
Yeah.
talked about earlier. We have to have it. So ladies, don't think that, or gentlemen, whoever, if you listening to the Very Thoughtful, don't think that. You don't have to think that having a business is okay.
It certainly is. It
There's
certainly is.
nothing wrong with that.
Yes. Well, this is the question I love to ask my guests. One, because I need to increase my library. And just two, I know the power of books. One of the things I tell people is when you're having negative thoughts or you're in a bad mind space, go get someone else's thoughts. And the best way to do that is to read a book, or as, if you're like me, audio a book. So what book either are you reading now, or what book did you read in the past that just really shift things for you?
Okay, so I like a lot of books.
Okay.
So Bamboozled by Jesus, I like that.
That one.
I just downloaded the A Radical Awakening, so I'm getting ready to get into that.
Who's that by, Jameisha?
It is by Chef Shafali Tasbari.
Oh, I like her.
It's a 15-hour listen.
Wow.
U 2.0, Ayodeji Awasika.
Uh-huh.
It's a 3-hour listen.
Okay.
So reading, I've always loved to read, but as a business owner, sometimes you need that information so that your mind can stay open to the possibilities.
Mhm.
Because if you don't read, if you're not looking at the world around you from a different perspective, you can miss an opportunity. And sometimes just reading a book or hearing it on the audio, whether you read it tangibly or listen, whatever your mode is, when you can hear someone else's experience, it can enlighten you to something that you probably didn't even think of, or maybe help you adjust something in your business. And I think it's crucial to read and empower yourself, because my grandmother used to say, when you stop wanting to learn, that's when life ceases to be fulfilling to you. So reading is necessary. It is vital.
Yeah. So, guys, you heard Jameisha say reading is vital. And I get it. Like, I am a slow reader. Because I'm a slow reader, I audio my books and I also learn better from what I hear. So, I just want to say, first of all, thank you so much, Jameisha, for coming on tonight. This has been so awesome. This has been a great conversation.
Thank you for having me. I love what you're doing, Kanisha. I appreciate you sharing your gift with all of us and encouraging all of us to operate in our best selves and be authentic and show up and not be afraid to walk in our purposes. Thank you so much for having me here. It's been an honor.
Oh, thank you. So, guys, thank you all for watching. I love that you tune in. Remember to like, subscribe, share. And also, if you are that female watching this and you're either stuck in your business or have it stuck in your head about starting a business, join me on February the 7th at 6 p.m. for my masterclass. Go to verythoughtfullife.com to register. And listen, ladies, we give a lot. We pour out a lot. Join me for my retreat on March 1st to the 3rd. We're going to take you away to Lake Gaston to a beautiful home. We're going to pamper you. But while you're there, you're going to get some valuable information to help take your business to another level. So, again, thank you. Have a wonderful night. Talk to you soon. Bye bye.